Hi everyone, it's Lunar Day 3. It's a Saturday, so ruled by Saturn, and Lunar Day 3 is for making a talisman for war or similar. So it's oddly apt. Today is the 25th of April, which is in Australia and New Zealand, a Memorial Day for returned servicemen and those that passed away in battles overseas. We call it Anzac Day, which represents the alliance of Australian and New Zealand troops. Now, just in case, there is a spider crawling around on my recording device right now. So if he happens to crawl in front of the lens, let's just take it as a good sign. Today, I have a bit of a tradition that has been going on for a few years now. Anzac Day is around the right time for fly agaric to pop up at the place that I choose to collect them. So every Anzac Day we take a drive out there, and it does feel oddly fitting because the bright red caps on the green grass, they do feel like blood on the ground, and that's always been very interesting to me. I choose to go with that timing and the level of tradition in that more than astrological days for the agaric. Obviously, also it's seasonal, so seasons move and change, so always looking at the timings. I'll just touch on timings, and I know I talk about timing a lot in the podcast, but one, if there is a need, do the work. So if you have an absolute, I'm sorry, there's Corellas going past in the background. If you have a need to do a spell, do the spell because you need to, right? If you can then look at if you have time to wait, look at your days. If you have less time to wait, look at the planetary hours. If you have no time, do the work. If you have all the time in the world, then look at the movements of the planets and go from there. I don't believe that people should be put off doing magic for something that they need or want. I'm good with want. Just because of the astrological, the day or the time or things, unless it's just such a massive counter, like Venus going into retrograde mid-May, so early mid-May. You would avoid at all costs doing a love spell then, unless it was about that retrograde sort of cycle. We might talk about that in another thing. I want to keep this pretty short. So today we had a good but not overly generous harvest of the agaric, and some of those will be available as talismans to people on my mailing list. So do sign up for the mailing list if you're interested in any of those. And one other thing I stopped for today was hawthorn berries. I went past and I could just see the size of these guys, and they're so ripe. They're the end of the hawthorns, where these are incredibly ripe. And I already have a hawthorn syrup, a tincture syrup that will end up being a false agaric going, and I wanted to not only take the tincture that I have, but decoct the plant matter in that from that tincture with water as well. And I thought these fresh berries are just so perfect that they have to be added to that. So So that's part of the plan for those, and also some of the late season leaves. Typically you use spring leaves, but or new season leaves, but for this I wanted to add the late season leaves. Oh, just on another thing on timing and seasons. A lot of books on nettles talk about collecting the nettles in early spring, and then, you know, at the end of autumn when they're spent, collecting the stalks for fibres and things like that. And that's awesome, unless you live where I do. It's not a Southern Hemisphere thing, it's just a climate specific thing going on here. We have new season nettles now. And so I'll be collecting my new season nettles. And I think that's one of those things we have to be careful when we talk about spring and things like that. So as opposed to saying spring, we're going to say new season. New season nettles, I'll collect those, and I'm going to run them through the still on Tuesday for the Mars. And because nettle hydrosol is a very distinct product as opposed to nettle tincture or use of nettles in any other way, dried or tea. So I'll be doing some work with that. So yeah, just consider your timing. You know, when it says spring nettles, remember they're probably talking about new season nettles. And if new season is autumn, like it is for me for the nettles in my area, then that's when you harvest them. Thanks for all your responses to the last few videos. They've all been really great, and yeah, I'm just going to keep doing them. Rue and I are recording a podcast this evening, so we're going to talk about Verdant Gnosis Volume 3 in the podcast, and just catch up on the last sort of 6 weeks of time going from there. Not so much a process video today. We'll have another one later in the next couple of days. Thanks so much. Keep it short and sweet today, and I'll talk to you soon.